good morning, everybody. So yeah, I'm Caroline Moore, and I'm an Airfield Advisory Consultant at the CAA. I thought I'd just give you today just some background into the roles that I've done since I graduated in 2007. I've had a real varied career, and I'll tell you the reasons why I had to move between roles. But what I wanted to do was just highlight the fact that there are so many jobs out there, and when I was growing up, I would never have said, when I grow up, I want to be a road safety analyst or I want to be an aviation consultant. Those jobs just they're not in your faces, and so I just wanted to make sure you had a bit of an idea of the varied roles that come out of the STEM world. So just this is here highlighting my CV, if you like. I graduated with an undergraduate degree in mathematics in 2007. And I moved straight into the world of transport planning. And while I was working as a transport planner, I did a master's in transport planning and engineering. And then I undertook some roles thereafter. And I'll go into some detail now of those roles. So when you're doing a maths degree, they don't really talk to you about the kind of jobs that can come out of those 3 years of studying. I absolutely loved maths. When the professors used to say to me, Caroline, what do you want to do when you finish this? I said, I just want to sit and find X. I loved algebra, but that wasn't going to pay the bills. And I just thought, why are you not telling me what's out there? As far as I was concerned, I either became a maths teacher or went into investment banking. One of the they had a career day while I was at university, and I went down to Canary Wharf for the day. It was this big women in technology. Look at all the things you can do with your brilliant STEM degrees. And we met some investment bankers, and I just thought, I've no idea what you do. And I said, what do you love about your job? And they said, the money. I thought, that's very lovely, but what do you go and do 9 to 5 every day? What is it that gets you out of bed in terms of the actual work that you do? Because to me, I really want to go to work every day and enjoy the actual work that I'm doing. So I didn't go and become an investment banker. I didn't get what I wanted out of that day. And so I didn't do any jobs that scream maths degree, but the skills that came out of that degree can just lead to so many different careers. So I've got great attention to detail. I'm able to explore all the solutions when there's lots of problems in what I do, and I'm very logical. So I had a phone call when I was at university from a recruiter that worked on jobs, engineering jobs, and he said, maths degree is really brilliant for transport planning. So I got some background on what a transport planner was, and I went straight into it, and it really was great fun. So think about a large development, a big hospital, massive housing estate, or a whole town. That's a lot of the projects that I was working on, a whole eco town. They want to submit a planning application for those developments. They'll need a company to do a transport assessment. They'll need to say, okay, so how much traffic will be generated from this development? And so what I would do would measure the current traffic, estimate what the future traffic would be, send it around a network, and then assess how all the existing networks would cope with that traffic. And 9 times out of 10, all the junctions would be would end up going over capacity, and we would have to redesign the network. So it was a great job where part of it was doing the analysis of the network, and then another part of it was to then get into AutoCAD and design the future network. And there's so many elements of transport planning. So I preferred that analysis section of the work rather than the design. It's great fun doing AutoCAD, but my skill set was better placed in the analysis. You can also really focus on the sustainable part of being a transport planner. So thinking about, if you have got a brand new town proposed, how are you going to make things sustainable as a result of that? Working on travel plans, new employment businesses going into these towns, what can they do to reduce using cars? So the subjects that would be ideal for becoming a transport planner is most STEM subjects, so maths, economics, geography, engineering, technology. A lot of geography graduates go into transport planning. And the reason I left was because, unfortunately, there was a recession in 2009, 2008, 2009. So a lot of the big housing developments were completely stopped overnight. So I moved over to become a road safety analyst. This was a brilliant job. I did this for 7 years, and this really honed in on the statistics element of my degree. And I worked for 3 companies, Road Safety Foundation, and then there was, you can see in this report I'm showing EuroRAPS, that's a European Road Assessment Programme, and I worked for their sister company, the International Road Assessment Programme as well. Ultimately, what we did was measure the safety on roads. So we either looked at old accident records, or we actually looked at the engineering characteristics of the roads. I would write reports such as this, and I would gather the data, analyse the data, write the report. Then I would go to Parliament one day a year and present the results. I would then be on the TV and radio all day. It was just this mad day once a year where I would then communicate what the results were. So a lot of international travel was part of this, because, as I say, it was not just the UK stuff, but also European and the wider international, going to lots of developing countries and trying to sort out their safety records. So subjects that help in this role would be maths, economics, engineering. And I actually left this because I had a very young family at the time, and the international travel was very difficult. So I do look back on that job very fondly. I do miss it, but it helped with the family situation I was in. So after I had my second child, I moved over to a niche consultancy, you could say. There's lots of traffic engineering consultancies out there that are designing roads, similarly to what I did in the past with around hospitals and housing development. This was a different consultancy. They designed roads around airports. I honed my old skills of AutoCAD in this role, but I took with me a lot of my project management skills. The consultancy required a lot of support to their senior team. So I went into the role managing the projects, and I did a lot of the design work though, and it is really good fun. So what you're seeing here is a screenshot of Heathrow Airport, and you can see there's lots of roads going around the airport, and that's called the apron, where the aeroplanes are parked. So not only did we design the roads that carries all the supporting vehicles to aircraft, we actually designed the taxiways as well, and there's a lot of engineering design around runways and all that kind of thing. So a lot of the engineering around the airport we were involved in. So subjects that really helped towards this would be engineering and mathematics. And I left this role because, as I mentioned earlier, the AutoCAD side of things, while I can do, I would say that I'm of better use doing something different. So so I just don't feel as passionate about the design than I am, say, analysing data and that kind of thing. So I moved over to a consultancy where I straight away went into two major projects. One project, I was analysing the performance of air traffic management across Europe. So that really, the work that I did as a road safety analyst really helped with that. I was very used to analysing massive sets of data from all across Europe and the world. But another project I was involved with was, as you can see, what you're seeing is the possible third runway of Heathrow. That's the line to the north of this image, and what it was assessing the potential routes that would come out of putting a third runway into Heathrow. And so there were millions of routes. They all come with data attached to it. So one route would fly over a part of northeast London. What did that mean for the people that lived under that route? Every single route we would assess the data that's attached to it and then come up with the best route. That was brilliant. I really enjoyed that, and we were getting really far until COVID hit, and that project had to stop. So unfortunately, I had to I lost my job because of COVID, and that was a real shame. There was a lot of international travel involved in this, and becoming a management consultant, ultimately that's what this was, as a management consultancy, is really good fun. Every project's different, lots of problem solving, and as I've put at the bottom of this slide, any STEM subject is desirable. I didn't have to come in there with a degree in aerospace engineering, despite it being very attractive. Just showing that you've got the skills to solve problems will get you very far in a business like that. So after losing my job, I was a bit nervous going back into the aviation industry. It was massively hit by COVID, but I saw a role in the Civil Aviation Authority. It was just a magnificent way of bringing together all those varied skills I've picked up along the way. So when I was a road safety analyst, I used to work with local authorities and I'd help them prioritise which roads to spend their money on to improve the safety of their roads. So that engagement was a really good factor for the role that I do now, because what I do now is I work with there's 800 airfields in the UK. Also, that number can range from 700 to 1,000. We're not quite sure. We say 800. So all these airfields that need support, they have all kinds of issues, planning issues, operational issues, safety issues. So we can come in and help them, and we work with a wide range of stakeholders that are associated with the airfield. My experience with designing infrastructure is very useful. My analysis of the strategic road network in Britain, very useful for this role, because we're working on a strategic airfield network, and economic appraisal is very useful here, because a lot of local authorities ask, what does this airfield do for the economy, and I'm able to show costs and say, it generates this amount of money for the local economy. So again, any STEM subject is desirable for this role, and this is the role I'm doing now. So I'm pleased to say that I haven't had to leave this role, and it's really good fun. Every single airfield is completely different, and that's what I really love, is a role where every project is different. Some more information, I'm happy to send out some slides. So if you'd like any more information about how you might want to get into any of these roles, what you can see here is some information about a transport planning professional qualification that you could do, a website that shows all the different roles that you can have in transport, a couple of links that tell you about becoming a chartered engineer, and the CAA careers website. It's really interesting to see the varied roles that are within the Civil Aviation Authority. And if you have any questions that you couldn't think of today, I'd be happy to respond if you send an email to the aat@caa.co.uk. That's it. Many thanks.
Thank you very much, Caroline, for your talk, and really interesting insight into your career and your different career paths in terms of different roles you've undertaken. So we've had a few questions come in. So your first one we've got is about what factors help you decide whether a road is safe?
Okay, so we did two different things. So I'll try to do this very quickly. So first of all, we look at the number of fatal and serious injuries, fatalities and serious injuries. And what we did was measured it in terms of the traffic volume. So you might notice that when you're traveling on motorways, there are a lot of accidents on the motorways, and everyone's like, oh my gosh, the motorways are so dangerous. Everyone's always having accidents. But when you think about it, there's 80, for some cross sections of a motorway, 80,000 cars go down that road every day. So one accident per 80,000 vehicles is a lot safer than when you say look at a winding single carriageway road through a national park that might also have one accident a day, which probably sees about 2,000 vehicles a day. We do that. We measure how many accidents there are compared to the traffic volume. And then what we did was we colour coded the maps. So a black road would be one that experienced a huge rate of accidents per traffic. Most of the motorways are green, so they would see a low number of fatal and serious injuries compared to the amount of traffic. So that's one element. The other side that we did was videoed roads. So every 100 meters we would have a cross-section image, and we were able to say, okay, what's the distance of that tree to the road? You know, you've got a short distance of a tree to the road. If you have an accident and you go into that tree, the consequences will be very severe. So there were about 50 of those types. So it wasn't just that, it was, is there paint down the centre of the road? Is there a barrier down the centre of the road? Are you protected if somebody, you know, from overtaking and that kind of thing? So all these different elements, we would then, we had these formulae that would basically generate a risk for that 100 metre. And again, we would colour code, we would use that information to basically say for this network, ultimately this road was a lot safer than this road. Really interesting and really helpful, and if local authorities use those assessments, it helped them prioritise which roads to spend money on, because they don't have a lot of money.
Thank you very much, Caroline. And the next question is, when analysing air traffic, how many planes can be in the sky around an airport at once?
Oh, I really wouldn't be able to answer that one. It depends where you are, but the kind of analysis that we were doing, it wasn't really to do with the volume of aircraft in the sky. What we were doing was it's air traffic management. So how many planes were delayed per country, how many planes were able to fly the shortest route, so which ones were, you know, being the most environmentally friendly. It was all those kind of things. So and of course capacity is playing a part. You know, how many airplanes in the sky would obviously increase things like delays, but we would never have the actual figure at any point of the traffic. It's just assessing how a country would make the best choices in terms of environment and delays and many other factors. So yeah, we didn't quite go to that level of detail.
And the question actually leading on from that is there different regulations or different ways of how airports are not created but planned from country to country?
So not, yeah. So certainly within Europe, there we had. So in fact, I'll start more local. So in the UK, the design of airports for licensed airports is according to a document called CAP 168. So it would have things like what the distance is if you've got airplanes parked, what's the distance between the aircraft, what that should be, what the distance should be from an aircraft at the back of a stand, the front of a stand, all these lots and lots of measurements. So those standards were at the UK level, but before Brexit, those standards had to be according to the standards created by EASA, which is the European. You got me on the spot now, but it's the standards created for all countries in the EU. So ultimately, our standards had to meet their standards. But it's very different now. Post Brexit, nothing's changed. We've kept our standards according to the EU standards, but and then at the really local level, airports such as Heathrow, they have their own standards. In order to manage all infrastructure projects, it's easier to compare designs according to their own standards, but what they're doing is making sure their standards meet the UK standards, which meets the EU standards. So most airports in licensed airports within Europe will be designed according to the same standards.
Thank you very much, Caroline. Another question is, what makes an airfield strategically good?
That is a very good question, and that is something that we are working on at the moment. Just quickly on a road network, it's so much easier, and that's why there is only one strategic road network. It's about the roads that link the most, they link big towns, people need to travel to their work. So all these kind of factors, it's very easy to do for a road network. It's very difficult for an airfield network because there's too many themes. So I should think that when a strategic airfield network is defined, it won't just be one network. I think there will be very many. So what network is best for flight training? So which airfields can train the most future pilots? That network could look very different to, say, the network that serves military aircraft. When you think of where all the military bases are, and they need to refuel to get between their bases and to do their training, that's a very different network. That could be more of a rural network when you compared to the network that wants to train future pilots. They need to be near big communities. So I don't think there will be one strategic network when we get there. I think we'll have very many. A lot of the work I do, though, is to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Local Authority, this airfield that's got an issue right now, they're strategically important. At the moment, we just say it's strategically important for this and this and this. I hope in the future that we'll be able to say, this airfield is part of the network for military refueling, or is part of the network for the future pilots. So yeah, it won't just be one.
Thank you for that. And the last question we got is, what are the benefits of having worked in different roles?
It's a tough one, and it's something I'm personally a battle with, because I'm very varied, and I'm quite complicated. When people ask me what my background is, I say, I've done this, I've done this, I've done this, and it's so easy for some people who can just say, I did this for 10 years. So I'd say there's quite a difficult part of it, but it's the experience and the situations that I've been in. You just can't compare those, and I find myself able to react to situations so much better than others, because you can throw anything at me. I've dealt with all kinds of things. And I think it's just so important that you could just explore as well. We're only here once, and there's just so much to try, and it's amazing how you can find that there are transferable skills. You've just got to be very brave. Confidence is really key, because you know, when I went to this role now, I've got mostly roads background, and I'm in this really significant aviation role, but just have the confidence to say, I got given this job, I've got this amazing skill set, and give it a go.